Yeah, hi everyone. We're so happy to have you here today for the Beyond the Net webinar of this year, 2021. So this third webinar will be on growing the internet, presentation of two cases in Africa and Europe. We have Jasper and Nevena from two different chapters. They both are recipients of large grants. Jasper Mangwana is part of the Internet Society Zimbabwe Chapter, and Desiree Miloševic is part of the Internet Society Serbia Chapter. To give you a quick overview of the foundation and our work, our vision is that the internet is for everyone. Our mission is that the Internet Society Foundation champions ideas and enables communities to unlock the internet's potential to tackle the world's evolving challenges. You can find more of this information on our website. We currently have 5 programs plus 1 funding, so the IGF funding. So you have Beyond the Net, and those 2 projects that are being presented are part of this program. We have Skills, strengthening communities, improving lives and livelihoods, Bolt, building opportunities and leveraging technology, Research, and Rare. And we also have IGF, as I mentioned. This is the 2021 programs. We'll have more updates in January 2022. We're presenting also some updates on some programs and what we're changing, section committee, a lot of new exciting news. That's it.
We will have information about the survey also next year, the beginning of next year. I don't know if you took the survey, but we did a survey last year, as you see. And we had really exciting news that we will inform also some changes that we'll be promoting in the Beyond the Net program. So be attentive to the things that we send to you over email next year. That would be great news. And I think that's right, Sarah? I think that our action plan is already in our website. So
yeah, the action plan was approved by the Board of Trustees as well as the budget in November of this year. And then we take some time to design it and also translate it into French and Spanish. So it just went up, I think it was the 8th of December.
If you are too curious like me and already want to know what will be going on next year, you can check there. But there will be also other changes that we need to make to accommodate the changes that the board approved. So those are the exciting news that we wanted to share with you in the future. I think that's it from us.
Yeah, so we'll start with the presentation of the Zimbabwe chapter. So Jasper, you can share your screen.
Thank you so much. I think maybe while you're sharing, I can just say that we are excited and happy to get an opportunity from the Internet Society Foundation to do work on this project. We are working on this project together with the CAG Center, which is the Center for Advanced Research in Global Communication, based in the USA. We're working on a research called Improving E-Waste Management to Support Green Internet in Resource-Constrained Settings. It's a collaborative research with the CAG. What we're looking at issues to do with extraction of minerals that are used to produce electronic waste, focusing mainly on internet waste, as well as the production of the equipment by manufacturers and bringing them to their different markets. After that, how we are going to be handling the waste management generated from that. The reason why we pose this theme is because we're looking at the global goals agenda, where the world is looking at the 17 SDGs, which are looking at the people, the planet, the prosperity, peace, and partnerships. And the planet is one of the key aspects where the global agenda of development is really focusing on, because we can't talk of the development if you can't mentioning, climate change and also the environment where we're living in, because these 17 goals actually really focus on that. So because of that, this research really speaks in terms of how we as individuals, as companies, as countries, as nations are really taking good care of our electronic waste to ensure that we also conform to the targets that have been given on an SDG 13, which is on climate action, as far as we're looking into the environment. You also come to Africa, because these are quite different there. You can't compare part of Africa with part of Europe and other developed countries. In Africa, we've also we call the Agenda for Africa, which is Agenda 2063, because I think we moved to the target, some of them from 2030, 2063, because of our financial constraints and other different things. But over and above, it also focuses a lot in terms of the planet, to say we as people in Africa, what are we going to be doing to really preserve our environment in terms of the production? For us as well, as we're connecting our people online, we need to really promote the environment in terms of its sustainability and the people that are connected there. The general trends in terms of internet adoption, because this is a key factor when we talk about internet waste or electronic waste or electrical and electronic waste. It depends with the manufacturers. It also depends with the trends that are actually happening in the world. If you look at 2019, approximately 1.3 people were living in 54 countries in Africa, making Africa one of the richest continents in terms of resources, especially minerals that are used in terms of creation and also manufacturing of this electronic and electrical waste. Not only that, the other aspect that also makes Africa different, or Southern Africa or Zimbabwe to be specific, is that 1 in 3 of Africans really live below the global poverty line in terms of what they can afford and what they cannot afford. Taking into consideration that access to the digital space in some of our areas really looks like a luxury, because Africa makes 70% of the global poor people that are ranked according to UN statistics. And despite the overwhelming number of extremely poor people in Africa, the causes of poverty are actually the same with other continents. But it's actually even hard for many to imagine life without connectivity, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic that have come on board. But the question is, are we really going to be connecting at the safest way in terms of this adoption of the technology? Or we are just looking and say, let's have our people connect and have the gadgets. So this has been actually one of the debates around what this research seeks to address, because the reality is that half of the world's population, which is in Africa, is not really connected. So it's important for us to also look at the potential in terms of growth. But as we're looking in terms of the potential in growth, we also need to see the technology adoption model, if it's actually sustainable and good for the environment that we live, as well as the health of our people. African countries, generally, we prioritize health, education, food, and sometimes security, because that's where we think we need to be safe most. We really look at issues to do with the climate and the environment, because some of these things are not really quite key. That's the reason why this research to us has been something that is quite key and something that is exceptional in terms of the general trends that are happening in terms of the researches in Zimbabwe. So due to COVID-19, the need to be on the internet is so high. Some of people actually working on a global village. You need to be connected. Why? Because there's been really, in terms of leverage, in terms of social, economic, and political developments in the world, and Africa and Zimbabwe not excluded, depending on the internet. So because of that, it has actually made the need for gadgets very paramount now than before, because the quality of education that we want our students really have, it's actually being controlled or determined by the type of access they have to information, leveraging on the technology. So you see, ICT equipment really, the manufacturers have really done well in the past years because of COVID-19. Actually, to some extent, that actually some don't even have stock. When you make an order, you need to wait for an order until it comes. But if you look at that, research and development also is becoming good because they're there to make money. What do? They actually give a lifespan to some of the equipment to say, if it's a laptop, we need to be using it for the next 2 years. Even every year, they can actually produce a new version of a laptop or a new version of a mobile phone. But when they do that, some equipment become obsolete, especially for those in developed countries, because they can always go back and exchange, give them the old Mac and get the M1 new. Things like that has been happening. But looking at it, the old Mac is not really something that absolute. It can be used in other areas where we think access to equipment is difficult. So because of that, we need to look at the developing countries with a different eye. The phased out ICT gadgets that really don't make sense, they make a lot of huge sense when you come to Africa, because of the poverty that is here, because of our people that are not yet connected on the internet. So we end up really saying, wherever there's a second-hand or refurbished equipment, we need them. If you've noted the trends recently, there've been a rise in terms of online sale of refurbished equipment. Why? Because you might not need it, but some people might need it. And also, research and development is doing very well, especially for the big companies. When they do that, they also need to make the sales on the new products they have. So it's important for us to look at it, but it has been proven cheaper for some users, especially those in developed countries, in terms of the cost associated with recycling, when they don't want a gadget anymore, to actually donate it or send it to a more demanding area where they need to use it, rather than incur the cost of recycling. This is actually taken out and made a huge impact in terms of exports and imports, those that are coming into developing countries from developed countries. Why? Because a good second-hand MacBook from the US, if I get it in Zim, I can still use it for the next 4 or 5 years, which is good. But we don't have regulation to look into it to say that whatever cost that the person was using it in a developed country in terms of recycling, we are really changing the recycling cost from one nation to another, from one continent to another. So as we look into that, our countries are not that rich. That's the reason why we still struggle to provide clean water for our students. We struggle to provide food for them. Worse off to provide gadgets for them to access the internet. Later on, talk about the impact these gadgets may have to them when we're saying that maybe it's a refurb that's going to not really stay for long. So while for developed countries, they may assist the developing countries by donating absolute or some equipment that is still usable, we need to look at how we are going to be looking at very well. The largest recycle center in the world is in Ghana. But in Africa, we don't produce anything. It's in Ghana. That's where a lot of this recycling of electronic waste is. But we expected to see these huge companies, the recycling centers, maybe in India, in China, where we've seen a lot of the manufacturing of these and a lot of numbers in terms of population. But it's in Africa. Why? Because we're really getting a lot of them that are quite secondhand. So the big question is, are developing countries really dumping the electronic waste to Africa? Or Africa is benefiting from donations to connect its people to the internet, is looking at internet waste? This is what the research is really trying to look at, because we are lacking quite a lot in terms of policy. We're also lacking a lot in terms of regulation to say, how do we then move forward? So the background is that the knowledge economy is really pushed a lot of electrical, electronic equipment, production and consumption, exponentially fueling the obsoleteness and the hyper and constant communication. People want to catch up with times. When a new iPhone 18 comes out, people want to be running on that. They want to get rid of the old one. So because of that, a lot of equipment that cannot be used really left out. So Internet of Things is also becoming on board. We've seen a lot of automation, artificial intelligence, big data. All these require hardware. All these require resources for them to function properly. So e-waste is actually the fastest growing waste stream today, with over 53.6 million metric tons as of 2019. Production, which is actually a big, huge business. Not only business, but also it means in terms of the impact it has on the environment and the health of people. This is quite huge in terms of waste. And you also look at the populace in developing countries, they're actually relying on used electrical and electronic waste. And about 80% of the electronic waste collected from recycling in developing countries is actually exported, because at times recycling the equipment does not make any sense to them. So exporting it becomes the cheaper option. This is generally the background in terms of to see that as we are pushing production of electronic and electrical equipment, our economies are different. And the problems that we have that are raised on the issues posed is that the lack of regulation, there's loopholes in terms of that when you come to our countries, especially those here in Africa. The lack of regulation when someone is really importing refurbished equipment, and also high unemployment in the informal sector, which is really looking at also issues around recycling. Also illegal exports to developing countries where someone will try to maybe run away from recycle costs and say, maybe I've got a better way, I'll just donate something that really gets here, never used, but we clap our hands and say we've got something that we can use. And also cheaper way for developed countries to transfer recycling burden, because at the end of the day, the environment, the people we will live in are going to be really affected by this waste. So these are quite key issues when you come here. So for us to really think about regulation on internet waste, 70% of the continent's population is not yet online. So whenever we see any gadget that we think can be useful for anyone to really connect online, we take them there. So the risks that are also associated with workers and environments, different chemicals which pose different hazards without information on how it's going to be handled, even in corporates and companies. How do you handle electronic waste? We don't have that even on our local authorities. The local authorities where the cities where they run and assist us in terms of garbage collection, they don't even have a policy on how electronic waste is actually handled. You look at batteries that produce mercury, cadmium, lead, and lithium, the printed circuit boards, lead, antimony, beryllium, and cadmium, the plastics containing brominated flames in wire insulation, the cables, the Cat 6. Some people are saying we're migrating from Cat 5, we're going to Cat 6, you're taking off the Cat 5. Where are you putting it? What is the impact on the environment? The cathode ray tubes, all these things, the liquid crystal, displays, the LCDs, all these have an impact to the environment and to the people. And our workers are also affected, because we have people that should handle these 53.6 million tons, especially those in Africa, because we are quite aware that they don't even have the safety resources for them to be equipped. Is it whatever safety equipment that they need when they handle this? So these are quite key issues that we need to look at. You look at the nuclear dump sites at times, because people don't want to, incur the cost. You just dump everything on the site and say, let's burn it and destroy things. But you don't know what you're really burning in there. There's some electronic equipment that is there that can blow up, that can also cause harm to the environment. The workers that suffer physical injuries, someone might actually be working on the chronic ailments such as asthma, skin disease, all these, they actually increasing because we are not managing our electronic waste. Pregnant women at times, miscarriages, deformed birth, all these actually happening. I've even noted, in the US, they've banned the polybrominated diethyl ethers. They stop that and say, we don't need that. We don't need to destroy it. But because they send the impact in terms of people's health. You also look at the informal workers, not aware of the environment and the health risks that are associated, the education, the awareness, in making them know that this is the danger that you're actually handling. It's also the contamination of water. As we are looking for clean water, surprisingly, we rarely have proper water systems work. We actually depend on drilling boreholes. So just imagine someone buries a laptop the ground, and then you drill a bore, you get your water source from there, and then you've been drinking this water for maybe the past 10 years. This water is already contaminated. But how do you then survive? So these are some of the issues that we need to look at. The global environment, that's another issue that we need to see. How do we then move forward in causing the risk for people where we live in? So this is actually a really healthy emergency. So we need to also link e-waste and climate change. E-waste disposal contributes to climate change due to the chemicals released. Because of what comes out from there, it really affects the environment. You cannot run away from there. The PBDs are used as flame retardants in electronics. During combustion, they release carbon dioxide, which really affects the environment because we need to really be breathing the good air that we all deserve. The manufacture of electronic equipment, they also release large amounts of carbon dioxide when they manufacture. So when e-waste is properly looked at, maybe only 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, which were expected to be released, when we really properly manage our e-waste, because we are producing a lot of carbon greenhouse gas emissions due to trying to destroy this electronic waste. Then recycling also provides alternatives to reduce emissions and mitigate climate action. This is quite key. When we do it properly, we save our environment, we reduce the emissions, we also save the health of our people. We really need to take action now as people to make sure that we don't create more hazardous to our people. So the project really is looking at to assess the existing electronic waste policies and procedures and how we can improve them, to determine the knowledge and attitude and the practices of our people, to assess the roles of various stakeholders in electronic waste, to assess and monitor the importation procedures, because like here in Zimbabwe, we don't have any policy. We only had a new policy recently when we started to stop, importing cars that were manufactured before 2010. Previously, we used to just get all those from Japan, but because a lot of them are coming here, not being used anymore. But now the country has got a burden to say, how do we recycle them? Also establish, e-waste management advocacy initiatives at higher and tertiary education institutions. That was another issue that we're also looking at. Because we believe if we start with the students in university, they're a very good group that can actually run with advocacy and also influence policy. Some of the stakeholders working with in Zimbabwe, even above the CAC Center, the research across 4 provinces, the Minister of ICT, Tourism, Environment, Minister of Health and Childcare, the regulator, which is POTRAS, the local authorities, the manufacturers of electrical and electronic equipment, the repairers, those that fix phones and other things, distributors and retailers, because they use a lot of these, the scavengers, staff, university students, and the general public. These are the key stakeholders that we've actually identified over and above others who are actually already into recycling. So the expectations that we need to increase awareness on the internet, waste management, formulate policy, establish elementary infrastructure, collection, segregation, dismantling, contribute knowledge publication, e-waste advocacy. We actually want to propose, if things go well, some small levies, some small checks, which can be used to create, a recycle center in Zimbabwe, so that we can also have our first electronic recycle center. At the moment, we're actually taking this equipment, getting it recycled in South Africa and other areas. So we think that maybe this research can actually inform policy towards that. So generally, this is what we are working on. It's a great pleasure that we're also working with the team. We have Dr. Maposa, who's an ICT expert. He did his PhD in electronic waste. We've got Dr. Macherera. She's an environmentalist. She's working on environment. We've got Desiree, is a biostatistician, and myself, a network engineer. So we are working very well and want to appreciate this opportunity given to us by the Internet Society Foundation. And we are working very close with the CAC Center, and we expect some exchange programs next day, so that when we have this research, it's going to cover the global perspective of Africa and the world. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasper. I think it was a fascinating topic I was not expecting. It was really interesting, and I wish to follow up with your research in the future. And I also wish you all the best. As you know, for the ones who are listening, Jasper in the Zimbabwe chapter got also a grant from our research program. So that's the work that they are developing in this program. So we are really proud and really excited to the results. So hopefully in the future we have a follow-up session just for you to tell us more about the outcomes.
Definitely. Thank you so much. We look forward to that.
Thank you, Jasper. So I can start and say good evening to everyone, and also to thank the Internet Society Foundation for inviting us to be here today to share a little bit about our project Air to the People 2.0. And we're grateful to be able to present with the chapter of Zimbabwe in a similar topic, greening the internet. So my name is Desiree Miloševic. I'm a chapter president and also a founder of DESCON Ecology Hackathon in Serbia that is taking place annually for the last 6 years. And with me is Nevena Nikolic, who will later on talk a little bit about the project itself. The issue that we are tackling with our project is the environmental issue, and we'll talk about the problem in our developing country, Serbia, which is the bad quality air. And then we'll tell you a little bit about how we framed the problem and how we thought about how to write this project and how to make our response to this problem that we are facing. And then we'll tell you a little bit about the next steps and how the project has really come across, it's been accepted and has become really recognized. And that's why we're really happy. As I said, thought that in Southeastern Europe, Serbia is one of these countries where the problem of quality of air has been neglected for many years, and the problem is really exponentially rising, so that the capital of Serbia, Belgrade, is quite often on the list of the most polluted countries in the world after Beijing, after New Delhi. And although it doesn't have much industry, you would want to know why is it that the problem of air pollution in Serbia is extremely serious. And when you look at the European Union indicators of the pollution in Serbia, they're saying is that in Serbia, the indicators for bad air are 50% higher than any other European country that is in the rank of worst countries. So we have a National Ecological Association, a new association as well, that is also doing some good work. And also we have data from the World Health Organization saying that about 7,000 people per annum die from premature deaths from the consequences of bad air quality. This year as well, we started our project back last year, but this year there's been an ecological uprising across the country. This is 10th of April in Belgrade. And the last picture is about something else. It's not about bad air. It's about the Rio Tinto project, which is a new lithium mine. People are quite upset as they are really looking for ways how to fight for the better quality air. And what we have really done is created a short video, an open call, trying to explain what exactly is in this particular matter, little particles that go into your lungs and stay there forever as you breathe such quality air. So the problem is that the pollution is almost everywhere, but it's very complex because you don't know where are the sources of this pollution, and they have not been mapped. And there's also not enough government stations across the country that provide in real-time data so that you can plan your day accordingly, open the window or wait until you go and stroll your baby when the air quality is a little bit better. So there's insufficient data, and there's also some data manipulation going on. And since the climate change theme of DESCON has been trying to look how we're going to address all these existential challenges that are in front of us, including air pollution, we think we know what is ahead of us as a community and as a society is that we really need to redesign our entire societies with some long-term sustainability in mind. And I think Jasper also talked about some digital millennium goals like health, digital 3, and SDG 11. What we decided to do is really try to map the most polluted spots in Serbia. We worked together with the Center for Investigative Journalism, who are doing some of the research. And we wanted to map these 6, if not more, places that have worse quality of air. And we know that the response to any of these big, huge environmental problems is that we need to build a community. And we also want to use the technology for good, to use open source tools, to use open hardware and open software. And we would like to make all our projects appealing to the citizens, so they could be citizen-led, and that it has a crowdfunding way as well to support the project and its sustainability. And I think one of the also key elements is we're looking at disintermediation, and that is because the solution we have, we'd like to be able to put together this solution themselves without trying to buy it, and therefore somehow get them involved completely in being part of the solution. I'll just say a few more words before I pass it on to Nevena. How we came about with Air to the People 2.0 is that in 2018 at the DESCON Ecology Hackathon, we had made a device called Klimerko. Klima means climate and Merko means to measure. So in Serbia, it means it's measuring climate. And we have published our open code. It's an open source and open hardware product, so anyone can put it together. And most importantly, it sends open data over the network. So it makes the data about air quality transparent, and it democratizes and publishes the data so that any citizen in the Serbia can see it. We are then set up the initiative, and we'd like to thank everyone who participated there, the members of the Serbian chapter and the DESCON participants, makers, and artists, as well as Hack Club Belgrade, with whom we work quite often. And so what we've come up is this device that is a low-cost sensor device. It has all these features that we think are relevant in order to formulate a response how to build a long-term sustainable products. It's a DIY product that anyone can put together, and it is a citizen initiative that involves community to take part in and be part of the solution. And if you like, this is a very small, it's the size of a coffee cup. And what you can see is how it works. It has this, it's an Arduino-based open source software. And it has this brain node MCU with a Wi-Fi module. And it has two sensors, one that measures temperature, humidity, and pressure. And the other one, which is more important, the PM CST that measures this primary particulate matter particles 2.5 and 10 that you usually see on your applications, and it shows whether it's healthy or not healthy. And it also measures PM1, which is a secondary particulate matter, which means that it can contain some gases too. So literally every 5 minutes, it measures the quality of air in your vicinity. It sends it over your Wi-Fi network, over the router to the internet, to the platform, and we publish the data on our website and through the applications that we have. We have set up few open calls in January this year, and we had extraordinary interest from the citizen who wanted to become part of it. I suggest you watch the video later on. It's only 7 minutes long, but it's full of, I think, interesting data about the problem that we're trying to tackle. So here, I'll pass it on to Nevena.
Yeah. Thank you, Desi. So basically, as Desiree already said, we partnered up with Center for Investigative Journalism to do a research for us. So the issue was initially that we couldn't find which places in Serbia are the most polluted, because beside the fact that the already existing measures are indicating that Belgrade is one of the most polluted places in Europe, many of the places around Serbia do not have any way to measure the air quality. So after the 3 months of research, they found a lot actually of places that they recommended us to try to find citizens from in order to install Klimerko devices in those areas that are not covered by any nation-run measuring stations. I'm sure that most of these cities mean nothing to you when you just see it like this. Well, they're all over Serbia, to be honest. A lot of them are located in East Serbia. Some of them are in the south. We can see also the northeast, Belgrade as the capital as well. So this didn't help us a lot. So we decided to more or less run the nationwide open call. In January and February, we had an open call. And afterwards, we had also the presentation for the participants to show them how to assemble Klimerko and to tell them more about it. And as Des already said, we also made a movie that was presented to the people. This is just a part from the article from our partner at SINS. You can read it in full both on our blog or on their website. These are the parts from the movie that we've created that we already mentioned. Again, you can see it after this. We had, of course, some issues during the project, like any project does. One of the challenges we faced besides mapping the most polluted areas was ordering the parts for Klimerko devices, since the ongoing pandemic sadly slowed down the processes of transport, and as well, there are not so many resources on the world market, which have to move our project a little bit later than we expected, especially the deployment of Climericos and assembling of them. We found citizens who were willing to get their Climerico. Some of them wanted it, I think most of them wanted it already to be assembled for them. And with all of them, we have signed a contract for 24 months, which means that for the next 3 years, the citizens are obliged to keep their Climerico up and running. And for us, that we will supply them with any needed technical support necessary. Okay, so we made one more video. This video is how to make your own Climerico. At the moment, it has 2.4 thousand views, and we are very proud of it. It seems very simple when you have some IT knowledge, but for a lot of citizens, it seemed to be too difficult to assemble when you have no IT skills, which is one of the issues we've faced. And that's why we assembled a lot of devices already by our own, and we didn't sell the kit to the citizens to do them themselves, because people would get discouraged to make them. Also, Climerico is a device needed to be, as a device, is always measuring the air, is meant to measure air on the outside. That is why some of the citizens had to make some adjustments to their houses in order to install it on their balcony or in their gardens. This is also how it looks. As you can see, we also are developing new colors. Now we also have a golden model and many other models are coming. They are very, as Des already pointed out, they're very small, but as you can see, people are getting very creative in how to install them outside. I think in one of the new projects we have, they're also like on their roof, they're making like little places and putting cables to put them in a good place. And as Des just pointed out, they do not use a lot of electricity, which is also a very important thing. Climerico as a device is meant to be a low-cost device that will not put a lot of harm to people. So during the project, we can also show some numbers just to show you that we were good. We said that we were going to build a community, and so far we've installed 40 new devices thanks to this project, and we have 26 new chapter members. One neighboring chapter from Bosnia and Herzegovina is showing an interest to perhaps collaborate with us on a similar project and installing Climerico there, as Bosnia is also one of the countries with most polluted air. We also started with advocacy, because one of the main goals of our project was, if we collect more data about how really serious this issue is, then we can actually do some real advocacy work. Without the real data, there is no stepping ladder on how to act in the future and how to actually demand a change. So that's why recently, I think, Des, you can tell me, I forgot a little bit, when did you communicate with people from the organization, the national, I think it was on Monday or last week when you told me.
Last Monday, they had a presentation where they added about 120 of our devices to their application, which was nice. I think you think about NAIR. The National Ecology Agency.
That's right.
There's interest from all over the place.
That's right. I'm more communicating with them. I'm just doing the behind the scenes thing. That is the face of organization. We also created an iOS application. We already had Android app for Climerico.org. We also created a better innovation of Climerico. Now it's easier to install it than it was before, because now it has a Wi-Fi already inside of it. Again, Des knows more about it. If you're interested, you can ask after the presentation. Also, this project helped us find even more projects, because now we're getting more and more people being interested in us. We're doing the outreach, but it seems like it's not necessary anymore, because by this time, there's so many people coming to us. The last open call we recently had, we had 5 times more interested citizens than the project initially expected to have. Which made a little bit of a sweet problems of being like, okay, now we can choose who we want to have. As you can see, the name here, you can see Vazduh građanima means air to the people in Serbian, and Climerico.org is a website, and also the app is Climerico. So when you go to the website, the first thing you will see is the concentration of PM10 harmful particles in the air. Orange and deep purple I guess you can assume do not mean it's good. It means it's a very bad situation. But when you click on a specific Klimerko device, so when we click on a specific device, we can see also the PM1, PM10, PM2.5 particles. And we can also see the air temperature, the pressure, air pressure, and humidity levels. This is how it looks on the map. In general, as you can see, we also have some green place. So you know when it's safe to go out and then when things are getting a little bit better. We are getting more and more of them. So you can always check the app and see how they're working, or the website. So our next steps, what we plan in the future for Klimerko, is to make it, to continuously improve it. We are always questioning if we should find other sensors, because there's always something we may have forgotten or something that we are missing out that we should add to it. Also, we're trying to make it even more user-friendly, so the people who don't have IT skills would be less intimidated by it. We will present the results of this project on the next DESCON 7, which will be held in May, and the theme of it will be mapping, sensing, and predicting. And we want to strengthen communication channels with citizens. And this is just from me and Des. We would like to thank you for your continuous support in our efforts to contribute to solving real-life problems with technology and to solve this huge issue for us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it was really, really fascinating. I think that I have shared with you since I got in touch with your first report in the beginning that I was fascinated by the things that you were reporting there. So yes, I'm really excited to hear what you guys did during these COVID times that are not really easy times. So really congratulations and thank you for all of that. I actually had a question to you because you are in touch with the community. And I wanted to know, what is the perception that the community started to have regarding the Serbian chapter when you started to work with them more closely? Did they know the Serbia chapter? Did they know what you guys used to do, like in the internet ecosystem? Do you think that you were able to pass on your message, like more clear? What are the interesting stories between you and the community that has been like happening during this project?
I can certainly add one thing. For example, during this project, we had like 5 TV appearances because people heard about it. And that's not usually something that we usually get an interest about this project from all sorts of media and journalists who wanted to write, what is this thing, Klimerko, and is the data accurate? And we said that Internet Society of Serbia is there to really apply new technology and to teach people about the responsible use of technology. I think this is our message. So I think it also ties in what Jasper was earlier saying. It's not just make a lot of internet. There's an expression, a lot of gadgets, and then they stop working after 3 years, and then you send them to a dump site and you do more pollution. We looked at sustainability as well, and we think this device could work with some maintenance between 5 to 10 years. And also it's recyclable. We used different materials from 3D printing. So we thought about every element, and we hope that it will serve our purpose to democratize the data about bad air. So then lawyers and other interested parties and organizations that not just deal with technology, but with other social agendas and changes would use that data to ask for the relevant changes.
I would also like to add that Klimerko is basically becoming like the face of our chapter by this time, because Klimerko even became a TikTok star for a short amount of time in Serbia to other campaigns we had. So we are very thankful that the society at large is showing interest. Sadly, it's probably connected with the fact that air pollution is becoming a very ongoing, serious topic that is prevalent in Serbia, especially in the winter months. But we are happy that if there is an issue, we can at least show some solution. And if that's the way that our chapter will be more promoted, that's how it is. But we are happy that we're getting some recognition and that it's for the good cause.
Yes, thank you. And I think that what you have presented and also what Jasper have presented is that such a small gadget or such an interesting approach to how e-waste is being managed in Africa can be like good conversation starters. So the chapter doesn't need necessarily to solve pollution in Serbia or in the world, but with technology that is simple, accessible, and gathers a community, you can actually start a very important topic. And the chapter can be acknowledged as the key actor that started this conversation by providing this community to be engaged around these technologies.
We would like to hear from more chapters like Bosnia and Herzegovina to use our project because it's open source and open hardware. Anyone can do it. It's citizen science. And now we're getting huge interest from schools as well because they find it's good for STEM education. And I think Nevena mentioned UNICEF in Serbia is interested. We're working on this project about installing it into 45 schools in Western Serbia, as they're concerned about cognitive ability of kids to learn when the pollution is such high, but also to use this technology to learn in a multidisciplinary way about the world.
Yeah, that's a question I was going to ask was about youth. So that's really interesting to hear. That's something you're already tapping into because kids have that automatic association with a sense of justice. And when they can see or smell pollution and they know about it, like it's something that they feel like they want to get involved in and take action on and get informed about. So that's really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yes, one of the applications, not the one that we built, but AirCare that was there that carries our data as well as other data. They have a child version. So when you switch on, you hear the child coughing when instead of reading that it's all purple and red. And it's very intuitive. So they're really good to work with as well. But yeah, I think if you draw a line in Western parts of Europe and you go a little bit to the east, the problem gets multiplied all the way to Southeast Asia in terms of neglected way of dealing with air pollution. I'm not certain what the case is in Africa. In addition to being a recycling place, we all need to connect and our project somehow.
Yeah, thank you so much all for sharing. Does anyone else have other questions? Maybe also for the Zimbabwe chapter?
Yes, I heard about next steps. I wanted to know, is it all going to stay within Zimbabwe? And are they sensing that people are already lining up to do the policy changes that he talked about for the e-waste?
Thank you so much, Disney. Yes, we actually had planned this year to conduct an electronic waste consultation because the government has a draft bill, but it's unfortunate the draft bill was from 2015 and the developments in technology, they've been really much, on the fast speed. So we have asked them to really look into it and share with the relevant ministries, including ourselves. So we're working on it. We're expecting to do an electronic waste bill consultation early next year, around February or March with the ministry. After that, we then send it to Parliament so that the Parliament can look at it, while we then conclude on the electronic internet waste research. But I think that's the beauty of it, that we want to appreciate. We got lucky that the Ministry of ICT, who are actually the policymakers, they're very excited with this project. They actually said, no, you guys take the lead in policy change. Even the issue of that, next year we might be traveling to just go and visit Kenya and Ghana to see the recycle centers they have, because they've been proposed to us to say, can you really introduce a small levy so that we can build the center? What are the requirements? Where can we get funding? And we said, no, we are actually, all we need is to do the research, then make recommendations, and we can move forward.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. We're so happy to have you, to be able to work with you and the great work that you do. And we'll see each other in the next webinars next year. And happy holidays to everyone. A happy new year.